Do you ever feel stuck, like you're living your life on autopilot? Are you ready to shift into high gear and reach the success you so richly deserve? Welcome to the Play Big Movement podcast. I am your host, Sharon Lechter, entrepreneur, business strategist, and best-selling author. Playing big is not about settling for good enough or being comfortable. It is about reaching your highest potential and achieving your greatest success. Join me in my Play Big movement as I interview top experts in business, money, and entrepreneurship, all ready to serve you and to help you play big, be number one in your field, live your legacy, and create maximum impact. Welcome, everybody, to this segment of the Play Big Movement podcast. I'm Sharon Lechter, your host, and I'm excited to introduce an old friend to you that I have just reconnected with, Noah St. John, Dr. Noah St. John. Welcome, Noah. So happy to have you with me today.
Thank you, Sharon. It's a pleasure.
Well, you are the author of the book. I love this. Get rid of your head trash about money.
Yes.
Obviously, a very, very popular topic with me as well, and also known as the father of affirmations.
Yes.
And mental health coach to the stars. And I'm going to get into your topics and some questions in a little bit. But what I like to do with all of my guests, I like to start with little Noah. Tell us about little Noah and how you got from where you were to where you are today.
Well, very briefly, I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. And I know it sounds like a cliche, but it's totally true. I grew up in a little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which happens to be one of the wealthiest communities in New England. But my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally, because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the chasm, the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Haves was everyone else in the community. The have-nots was my family. So, you hear these speakers and they say, well, we were poor, but we were happy. We didn't know we were poor. Well, my family, we freaking knew we were poor. So, because my mother reminded us every day that we were poor and miserable. So no, I wasn't happy. It sucked. And so I hated being poor. I hated that life of poverty. And because I saw that right down the street, there's great wealth and abundance. So, literally from the time I was a little kid, I just said, how the heck do I get from here to there? How do I get from not enough to enough? And that's really been my whole life's work. And I went to the library, even when I was a little kid, and I was reading books like Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey, all the classics, really, really tried to put them to work, but I couldn't get them to work for me as hard as I was trying. And at the age of 25, I decided to commit suicide. I decided to take my own life because I was so depressed, frustrated. And, at the last moment, my life was spared. I didn't know why. I didn't know why I was here on the earth. And so I went on a journey to find my purpose. Why am I here? What am I doing? And in 1997, I had two epiphanies that changed my life. The first one was when I discovered Affirmations, which is that book there from Hay House. And the second was when I discovered a condition that I call success anorexia, which no one had ever talked about before. And I'm the person that discovered that as well. And so those two things really are what I've written all these books about back here, these 17 books, and 18th and 19th coming out shortly in the next few months. But really, we've helped our clients add over $2 billion as a result of my methods. And that's really by helping people to understand why they're holding themselves back, and then using my methodology to stopping themselves from the level of success they're capable of. So really helping people make more in just 12 weeks than they made in the past 12 months. That's one of the things that we do now. We call it the 12-week breakthrough because of that very point. We help people make more in just 12 weeks than they made in the past 12 months. And, that's really how it all started.
Well, that certainly shows the proof in the pudding for sure. Talk about head trash, because I want to hear your take on head trash about money, because I talked
absolutely.
about scarcity mindset.
Yes, and that is this book here. That one of the 17 is called "Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money." And by the way, your listeners can get it for free. We have a website for that; they can get it for free on our website. But yeah, the way that I teach head trash is it's the voice in your head that says, "I can't do it because." ... And then you just fill in the blank. So for everybody listening, if you think about your goals, think about what it is you want, right? Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about your life, your business, your career, your relationships, your health, your happiness, your fulfillment, all those things that you want. And then, so people say, well, I want this, I want that, I want that. But then what happens is the next thing they say is, well, but I can't do it because I can't do it. Oh, I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I can't afford it. I don't have the right connections. I don't know how to get there. I don't know who can help me. I don't have the right coach, the right mentor. I'm married, I'm divorced, I have kids, I don't have kids, I'm a Martian, whatever it might be. And, people come up with all these excuses, as you well know, Sharon, of why they can't achieve their goals. And what's funny and sad about that at the same time is that you always make yourself right. So if you say, well, I can't do it because, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, then you'll find reasons why that's always true. And so it's not that you can't do it. It's just that people tell themselves they can't do it, and then they make themselves right. So we humans have an infinite capacity to make ourselves right. And this is one area where you don't want to be right.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Because you convince yourself all the reasons why you can't. That's why I talk about why not. Why not? Be open to the possibilities. You also talk about the unconscious habits
Yes.
of highly successful people. Talk about that, because I'm really intrigued.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes to another one of my books. It's called Power Habits. I won't show you all 17, but anyway, so this is one of my discoveries that I made back in 1997. So it's been over 25 years now that I've been teaching this. That's one of the reasons we've helped people make over $2 billion. And that is that highly successful people are doing things unconsciously that they're not even aware of. And that means they can't teach it. So a lot of people come to me, for example, after, they spend all this money going to all these personal growth seminars and all these different marketing, seminars and gurus and everything like that. And they're still stuck. And they come to me and they say, no, why have I spent all this money and yet I'm still stuck? And I say, well, it's because they left out all the good stuff. They didn't tell you anything wrong. They just left out all the important things. Right. So it goes back to that 80-20 rule. Right. So or really more accurately, it's really the iceberg principle of the brain. The iceberg principle states that about 5% of our brain, our behaviors are conscious, right? Just like the top part or 5% of the iceberg, whereas the vast 95% is in the subconscious mind or subconscious habits. And so highly successful people are doing these things, but they don't even realize that they're doing it. And so therefore, they can't teach it to you. Right. So it's kind of like, every habit that we humans want to do, right? Whenever we're mastering a new habit or task, we go through the 4 stages of competency. There's unconscious incompetence. That means you don't know, you don't know. The second stage is conscious incompetence. That means you don't know. The third stage is conscious competence, which is you know. And then the final stage is unconscious competence, which is you do without thinking. So an example I always give at my seminars or keynote speeches is driving a car, right? Probably most people listening to this program know how to drive a car, but at one point you had to go through all 4 of those stages. You didn't know how to drive a car. Nobody comes out of the womb and says, hey, where's my car, right? You don't even know. The second stage is you don't know how to drive a car, and you're like, oh, shoot, all I have is a bicycle. How do I drive a car? And you don't know. Well, then you go through the third stage, which is you learn how to drive a car. And then finally, of course, today, you do without thinking. And this happens for dozens of habits that we do every day. Well, what I discovered is that highly successful people are doing these habits unconsciously. And that is precisely why, number one, so many people go to all these different seminars, read all these books, and yet they're still stuck because, going back to that 80-20 rule, the gurus are basically saying the 20% that isn't exactly wrong, but it kind of doesn't really do anything. For example, believe in yourself. Hey, the secret to success is believe in yourself. Okay, we've all heard that a billion times. Meanwhile, before I discovered this, I was going to all these seminars too. I was doing the same thing, going to all these seminars. I'm sitting in the back going, but I don't believe in myself. What am I supposed to do? Right. And then they don't even tell you because they just go on to the next thing. That's just one example. Right. And so that's the point, is that there is actually what I identified as a process to believe in yourself if you don't, and that's why I share my story of deciding to commit suicide. I mean, that's pretty obvious that person is an example of somebody who doesn't believe in themselves, right, to commit suicide. So anyway, that's just an example of ways that highly successful people do things unconsciously, and that's why I call them, the full name is the Power Habits of Unconsciously Successful People.
So you also talk about the willpower is the worst way to try and change a habit. So tell me the best way to change a habit.
Well, it's first to understand what a habit really is. So a habit is really 5 stages or 5 elements, right? So there's the cue, routine, reward, craving, and belief. What that means is you have the cue or trigger, the thing that happens in your world. So that could be you wake up in the morning, it could be, you have an email that comes in. It could be anything, a stimulus that comes in from the outside world, right? Or it's 3:00 in the afternoon. That's a stimulus, right? So the cue, then you have the cue, the routine. The routine is what you do. Right. So it's 3:00. You say, man, I'm tired. I think I'll go drink a soda. Right. Or I wake up in the morning. I'll check my social media. Right. That's the thing you do. Right. That's not necessarily the best thing, by the way. Right. Cue, routine, reward. The reward actually happens in the brain, believe it or not. We're talking about a subconscious reward that happens in the brain. This is all neurophysiology, by the way. And then you have the cue, routine, reward, craving. The craving actually happens also in the brain. That means the brain has a craving for safety. That means we don't want to change. So this is one of the reasons why people find it so hard to change habits, even when they want to. And because then we get to the fifth stage, which is a belief. And for most people, when they have a belief that says, well, it's really too hard to change a habit. For example, procrastination. That's a classic habit that, entrepreneurs have that they want to change. They're like, man, I keep procrastinating. Why can't I change this habit? And what they've been told to do is grit their teeth and just, use willpower. Well, the example that I always give is imagine if you're standing in your kitchen, someone comes in with a plate of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies and you can smell the cookies. You look at them and your mouth is watering. Man, it looks so good. It smells so good. And then they say, now don't eat a cookie. Do not eat a cookie. I'm going to leave this room and don't eat a cookie. They leave the room. What are you going to do? You're going to eat 12 cookies, right? I mean, so that's the point is we humans don't like to deprive ourselves of anything. That's why willpower, I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying it's a muscle that is weak, that it's not going to really do you much good in the long run. That's why understanding those 5 elements of a habit, which we go over in the Power Habits book and the course and the coaching, that's why we're able to help people really transform those habits very, very quickly and efficiently without having to use willpower.
So, and you've offered people watching and listening today the opportunity to get your book. So why don't you share a little bit about that and how they can access it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So if you want to get this book for free, it's Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money, How to Avoid the 3 Big Money Mistakes Even Smart People Make. All you have to do is go to sendmeabooknoah.com. Very easy to remember. Sendmeabooknoah.com, and I will send you a book. We just ask you to cover the shipping. So again, it's sendmeabooknoah.com. And if you want to learn more about, my coaching and training and other books that we have, just my website, noahstjohn.com. We have lots of free resources, and you can learn about how I work with people, with one-on-one and group coaching and online courses and everything like that. So send me a book, Noah, and .com and noahstjohn.com. Those are the 2 main websites. And
certainly following you on Instagram, Facebook, that type of thing, I think is very important. But I think, at the end of the day, what Noah's talking about is the same, very similar to what I talk about, is that, that internal mindset.
Yes.
And learning how your mindset was created, because we have things that happen to us as kids. Noah talks about he lived in a very affluent area, did not have a lot of money, and so he gets exposed to that on a daily basis. So it implants certain assumptions and beliefs into your subconscious. Just like if we're raised in a family where people were very greedy, that gets it helps build that scarcity mindset. So it's really important to take the time to just be quiet and think about how you were raised and what those thought processes were. And I think, I'd like for you to rewind and re-listen to this, because what Noah said very quickly, and it was very important to think about how this applies in your life and how you can break the binds of that, the trash and head trash. I call it stinking thinking. So, very similar. We have to get rid of the scarcity mindset and be open to the possibilities, because a lot of people make a lot of money and they lose it because they've not changed their mindset. So I challenge you to think about how this applies in your life. And Noah, you're going to hang out with me because we're going to do another quick interview for the private Facebook group. We're going to talk a little bit about daily habits that you have, as well as maybe those days when, success is not a straight line. But thank you so much, Noah, for being with me today and adding incredible value to the group.
My pleasure.
And for all of you watching and listening, thank you for being here for this segment of the Play Big Movement podcast. I'm Sharon Lecter, your host, and I cannot wait to see you next time. And remember, you are fabulous. Thank you for listening to this segment of the Play Big Movement podcast. Please subscribe to iTunes and leave us a review, as well as join us in other areas of social media, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Sharon Lechter, and for Facebook, author Sharon Lechter. Thank you so much and have a fabulous day.